So yeah, as Pau said, my name is Cristian Maureira. I am a PhD in the Albert Einstein Institute, working with Pau mainly. And I want to change a little bit the idea behind these talks. And I will not present any amazing results of previous work or anything, or just talk about any topic in general. I just want to tell you about two ongoing projects that we have, which is under the topic of my PhD. And I want to generate some discussion, because I think that since this is a workshop and not a conference, I want to hear some feedback from you. And please don't hesitate to try to interrupt me, or if you don't agree and you want to leave the room, it's okay. You can do it. So yes, I mean, these are ongoing projects where we still don't have many amazing plots or anything like that. I just have one small video that I want to try to show you my laptop. If not, I can give you the URL so you can watch it online. But yes, I mean, the idea is just to tell you the motivation of two ongoing projects and hear from you. Try to change these unidirectional things to more like a discussion, general discussion. So please interrupt me if you want. So the first one is, I didn't have a title yet. That's how the project is. So I was just thinking about, and this is related to the formation of circumbinary structures. I don't say disk because we don't know yet which kind of things will form. So you all know the story that when we have some galaxy mergers, we think there's some massive black holes in the galaxies. Once they merge, one of the most important factors is the gas structures and all the conditions that we have in the system to facilitate the process of forming a binary in a newly formed galaxy, and then to start the hardening process up to some gravitational recognition scale. So I will just skip this introduction that we all have in the papers. And the main question of this is that how this disk that we have in most of the state-of-art papers are formed. Because as you can see, when I started the PhD, I saw all these papers about accretion disk, and they all start with some disk with some massive distribution. Some of them have some bulge. Maybe there was some circumnuclear disk, whatever. So they all started from this point. So the thing is that the question that we had was how this structure was formed. I mean, we will always have a disk. Maybe we will have some weird structure like a torus, or maybe a kind of circumbinary cloud or something inside. So we want to address this kind of problem. So first of all, you know that one of the most feeling process for this kind of systems would be the presence of some inflow clouds, molecular clouds, in this kind of binary, for example, like Felipe was talking about. So the thing that we wanted to know first, okay, if we want to address this problem, that how we end up with this circumbinary disk, we need to think about the configuration of our system, which will have some event that will end up in the formation of some clouds inflowing some binary system, for example, black hole or newly merged galaxy, whatever we want. So you all know, well, I'm not writing much, but we all know that there is like a different approaches to this scenario. So the first one is by, I think that I don't want to say the most popular, but the one presented by King, that we are like a completely isotropic scenario when we have like a binary, for example, we're going to have any kind of system, and we will have like different events of clouds inflowing from different places with like no relation at all. And besides this, he's also proposing the idea of having like a continuous flow from only one direction that will be like continuously fueling the system, so we will end up with some hardening or anything like that. And the other idea, that is the one that we are using, is from an Italian guy, I don't remember the name, is something, I think it's something. And it's that we will have like kind of isotropic scenario, but related to some F probability of having like depending on the angular momentum distribution, the spread of this thing. Maybe you remember something from Felipe's talk, and he was showing this nice polar coordinates kind of plot where they were saying that there was some F probability related to different kind of scenarios. Then we have like, you know, someone was here, was mostly co-rotating, rotating, and this was like some, he showed some plots with like a edge on, face on, and different configurations. So we wanted to follow this kind of approach because we thought that in general, like a more like a real scenario will be to have different, a different probability for the direction of the angular momentum, and then we can fuel the system in a different way. So what do we do with this kind of things that maybe you remember from yesterday's talk? It was to just select some direction of the angular momentum. We will have the binary in some plane, and we will have some direction of the angular momentum, so then we can see from where the cloud is impacting the system and how this can affect the process of gravity. Okay, so under this topic, there's also some, besides the work that was presented yesterday, we have also some work by Danhill. I think it's 2014, that he was selecting, I think, that two clouds with a huge impact parameter. So in that case, you will end up with some system like, we will have, for example, we have some binary, so if you have a large impact parameter, this means that the cloud will not like impact directly to the system and be destroyed, but it kind of like starts orbiting, and so you can have like a smooth process on the accretion and everything, and you can see that the results of this paper is like deforming some prograde or pre-prograde. Okay, so after having the idea, after having the motivation of the thing, we need to choose, of course, which kind of setup we will have for this kind of simulations. So since this is mostly, we can model this as hydrodynamics, and we want to study the gas evolution, we will also perform some SPH simulations, which also the software that was already mentioned, which is Gaseous. So with this software, we'll be able to do all the gas and see how the system will try to evolve dynamically. So for the initial idea of the system, we will base the initial structure, like the one that was presented yesterday. We will have some cloud with some velocity, initial velocity, whatever. I don't want to write all the things that we wrote again. So we will start with this kind of system where we have here like a separation of 1, we have a distance of 15, we can play with these parameters. So the thing that we do for our simulations, since we will want to have many events of this kind of things, is to start from this basic idea of the distribution of the system. So what do? Is to play again with this F distribution that I was telling you. So we decide first the direction of the angular momentum. So then, of course, if you have the direction, you can get some position and velocity, and decide from which side of the system the cloud will infold into the binary. So we play around to have like a more broad impact parameter, maybe one to some direct thing, and we need to take care of many things. So some other details about the system that the most tests that we already performed are that we are using the same equation that was said yesterday, with a small sync radius of 0.1 the code units. So it's not like a smooth equation, it's just if the particle is inside some radius, it will be swallowed by the black hole. We are not including any stellar formation. What else? We don't have we still have the same the truncated polytropic equation of state, so we decide some threshold from which the gas will behave like isothermically and the rest will be adiabatic.
How big is your cloud compared to binary separation?
The binary separation, the radius is 2.5 in the code, if I'm not wrong. Yes, 2.5 code, so this is 1, so okay, so this is the basic idea. I don't want to give all the other details, but now I want to start the discussion of these kind of things, because we have many questions that are still open and we are trying different things. For example, the first one, we are using this software doing some gas particle evolution, so we need to decide which resolution do we want to have the clouds? Because if we are thinking in many or multiple events, not only one, but the thing that was shown yesterday, where many of these, we will scale the system and we end up with a huge amount of particles, and we need to, we want to have the resultant soon, not in a few years or something. So, for example, from your experience, if we want to have like a certain amount of event, that also we need to define, let's say that we want to need 10 events, like to analyze the gas extractor of some 10 different infalling gas cloud with different angular momentum, different impact parameter. What do you think that would be like the most accurate or important resolution for the cloud? Like, which order of magnitude with the amount of gas particle would be doable?
I guess you would like to put the softening of the record and softening of the gas particles similar.
Yes.
You want to put the softening of the record smaller than the sink radius.
Yes.
And if the hydrodynamical processes are important, you want the smoothing to be of the order of the softening or less.
Yes.
That means that you have to put, I don't know, 32, 64 particles within the softening. That means within 0.5, something like that. And then you scale for an arm or something like that.
And what do you think that would be the proper amount of particles in this cloud? Because we have tried different things. I mean, well, some of them we have some issues, whatever, but we started, just to give you an idea of the resolution that we tried. We first tried with the 50K, like just to test the code. Okay. So then we started to try with 200, I think that 500, and 1 million and 2 million. But you know, I mean, if you're thinking of 10 events and you're using 2 million particles, I don't know, I mean, the amount of particles you will end up is really, really large. And I don't know how long will take the evolution to get like further to the transient evolution that was presented yesterday, because we want to have like a few periods, I mean, more than a few, I mean, like we want to have some secular evolution of the system to analyze the data that we are kind of generating there. So I don't know, I mean, we tried different resolution, and we don't know, in any case, maybe this question is related that how close this event would happen to the system, because you know that you will need some time to see how much of the material was agreed by the binary, for example.
Yeah,
So
I guess I would start by wondering which physical processes are you going to be able to capture, and that might drive you towards some ideal number of particles. And one thing that is on my mind, because I worked on it sort of recently, is that the binary is going to have an effect on the tilted orbit of the gas,
Yes.
which is similar to a Barney-Patterson with slightly different power laws. And so the question would be, is that something that is important for the things you have? And
that's the thing. I mean, that's one of the other questions that I had. That, for example, since we are basing the initial structure of the system, as the one who was saying yesterday, we are considering initially, as I said, a circular binary.
Yeah.
So, and we really will not care much of what happened with the binary at the end, because we want to study the gas, but I think that the initial setup will be like the same that was, I mean, circular orbits, equal mass, and
But I guess what I mean is, depending on how long you follow this, the actual path of the gas could be affected by torques from the binary.
yes, I think it will, yeah.
And is that something that you can resolve? And is it important for the questions you want to address?
I really don't have questions. I mean,
I guess that you always, well, since the softening is more, I guess you always resolve the torques, but what you want to ask yourself is whether you resolve the hydrodynamical effect that the gas, that the different parts of the gas have one on the other, if you want to resolve, for example,
Yeah, right. So if this is like a collection of non-interacting particles, then it's an n-body problem that you can do. But if you have the hydrodynamical or the equivalent MHD interactions, that's a different story.
There in principle you would like to have more than a smoothing, so more than 50 particles mapping the scale height of the following disk or something
Yeah,
like that.
that makes sense. Okay.
so yeah, and as I said, besides thinking about the resolution, that really I want to hear maybe you have worked with some Christian disc, whatever, you have an idea in mind, you just say something, just go ahead. As I said, I want this to be a discussion because I really need some feedback to continue with this kind of work. So for the time between these events, we were considering that one of the approaches that was mentioned yesterday, there was the assumption that we will have one total mass per year to the central particle of the system. So with this, we did some Poisson distribution to have to calculate the different times between these events. And of course, for example, one of the first steps that we did was that we wanted to see how well this software will behave if at some point this binary ends up with more than 2 clouds at the same time. What will happen? Because you know that since these are numerical codes, there are some errors inside them. So, as a matter of fact, I mean, we had some issues at the beginning that we even have some displacement of even though the clouds were very light compared to the black hole, they are like the binary. We had some issues that the binary was drifting. Because, you know, we don't have the potential that the galactic medium has. So we had some evolution where we plot, for example, the center of mass, as you remember, and it was like nothing. And when we had some 3 clouds interacting with the binary, mostly at the same, inside the same period, we had like a drifting, where the binary was flying away. And these are basically numerical things that we were trying to still to mitigate working in this kind of code to try to we don't want to fix the binary to the center of the system because we are breaking all the physics if you do that. I mean, we don't want to alter the natural evolution of the system. So it's still like a complicated situation, but I think that we're working on it and try to evolve it. So I don't know, I want to hear from Francesco maybe.
So how do you solve the equations of motions of the binary? Is it a constant step?
I mean, this is are you familiar with Gaseous? So I mean, this is aerodynamical and also an embodied code. So for this case,
it's a trick.
Sorry?
It's a trick.
Yeah, well, it's a trick because it's the approximation of how to calculate the forces. So we try 2 things. First of all, by default, the tree has this. Every single particle is part of the tree. So you know that if you're familiar with embody and SMBH simulations, you know that this is not really accurate. But maybe at some point will be enough for the system that we want to do. So, for example, since we wanted to keep the binary in some simple orbit as all that, the thing that we are still working on this is to take the binary outside the frequency. Because we want the binary to just to see all the gas particles at every moment to have like a proper evolution of the binary, so we can just forget and be confident that the evolution of this binary will be okay, and then start to analyze the gas structure that we are forming. But yes, it's tricky, and I think that one of the things that we did, that for example, we had these 3 clouds interacting with the binary, we didn't have a good conservation of the angular momentum, which is one of the main features of this code that conserve the angular momentum. So that's our way of checking if the system is working. Because if we don't have a conservation in the angular momentum, we know that we're just doing science fiction and amazing plots and movies and everything.
You don't have linear momentum conservation? Because this is central mass of the binary or the whole system including?
This was the central mass of the binary.
So it's something certainly makes sense. If you plot the center of mass of the system including the gas, this is constant, then you're still fine.
Well, but I mean, when we had this, we also didn't have the conservation of the momentum. So, and I mean, we start to analyze all the features of the system that why we didn't have a conservation of the momentum. And I think that this was one of the first ideas that came into our minds that, okay, we didn't have the binary fixed in some position, so we didn't have a good conservation of the angular momentum. So we were checking out all these things. But yeah, that's important that you mentioned that if you're familiar with tree codes, I mean, the way that we are approximating the whole evolution. I think that you all know what tree code is, that you just separate the the space in different sectors, and then you approximate like some bunch of particles as one in the center of mass and calculating the interaction with this particle. So I want to hear more. If you have any comments or ideas, maybe you have some idea.
You try to fix the time step for the black hole evolution to the minimum time step, because the problem is that the binary evolution could be on larger time step respect to the gas, and also to try to force the opening of the nodes around the black hole to be at the maximum level.
Yeah, we did that. We opened we had some like all documentation from Volker Springel to open the tree for the black hole, but we did a few tests, and after we were working with this with Felipe and Pau also. We tried these things and we did not have the proper evolution of the system. I don't know why. I mean, we had like we opened the tree for the black hole, and the first thing that we had was that we have the normal evolution of the binary, and when the three clouds interacted, I want to show then the video, when the three clouds arrived, when they somehow shrink the binary at some point, and then one of the binary was flying away. And we're like, what's going on with this kind of simulation? So we are still, as I said, looking into this thing because it was not so obvious. I mean, we even had the same, the same lines of code to open the tree for the black hole. We used them as Volker said, and it was not working. I mean, it was working with some resolution, if I'm not wrong, Felipe? I think with the lower resolution.
It's very tricky because it depends on the number of particles that resolution in that sense, and also in the time step of
because
yes,
about
hole.
the time step, we try to somehow like fix the, and I don't want to say fix, but to have the black hole like updating every time step, and this was generating more noise, error. I don't know how to call it, but it was an error in the angular conservation. So we even try to mitigate these kind of things, moving manually the binary time step to a higher beam of time step. I mean, you know, these codes work like similarly to embedded codes. You have like different sets of time steps. So you update them more often, the lower beams, and then the other beams they are like not updated more so often. So we even try to play around this thing and try like different levels for the binary, but we have some issues with the test implementation.
You sure that that thing over there didn't happen when the separation between the binary was like too soft and or something like that?
Well, the software that we are using, I don't know if I have it here. I don't remember. I think that is 0.01.
1/10 of the.
It's 1/10 still, yes. But I don't remember if they form.
The separation by
The separation of this I really don't remember. I didn't calculate, but it could be. It could be.
yes, in
maybe
that case
something.
it's just that the black hole is moving with a given velocity and immediately sees less mass and feels some bound and goes away.
Yeah, the issue that also we have that, of course, I would like to have no softening or maybe a really small softening. That's in the past I have tried like really small softenings with this kind of information, and I end up with some code errors related to the calculation of time step because, of course,
Because that's too
yeah, and also that's another thing that, of course, if you select like a low time step for most of the system, you will end up with a simulation that will take
But
ages.
you could increase another parameter, a free parameter for the time step accuracy that multiplies the term that depends on the softening. If you increase that and you decrease the softening, you keep the same.
So kind of like adaptive
You can
softening for
adapt
the.
It's not an adaptive softening. I would suggest for this specific case to keep a constant softening for all the particles. But you know, when you compute the delta T, there's alpha, whatever it is, a parameter that includes whatever you want, and then a function of the softening. So if you decrease the softening, you increase alpha and it's fine. Well, not linear without.
Yeah. Maybe
It's probably proportional
you can
to
try some concepts.
softening divided by acceleration, something like that.
Yes.
Christian,
Yes.
what about computing the gravitational acceleration due to the black holes on gas and also one of the black holes due to the other? Exactly. As you say,
Yes.
removing the black holes from the
thing that we
tree.
are kind of trying now. We were just
Yeah.
discussing before lunch that we used to have like two kind of implementation to test these kind of things. The first one was to have kind of black hole direct summation. So the black hole see all the gas particles at all time, but we also were working in some gas direct summation. So the gas will see the black hole at all the time.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
even if the black hole are inside some section of the tree code, they will see the black hole directly and evolve it somewhere. So yeah, we are also trying to do with that to try. Maybe it's also a good idea if we manage to
Because
finish.
in that case, you don't have the problem of the center of mass of the node, which could be slightly
Exactly.
different from the black hole position. So
Yes. So if we try this kind of thing again, we managed to get work in this thing, and we also are going to give it a try about the softening thing. But yeah, I mean, sometimes I'm afraid to decrease the amount of softening because of the, at some point we break,
yes.
you know, the appreciations.
There's another problem also with the accretion. Since we have these clouds that are very eccentric, we have a lot of accretion at the beginning, and the accretion breaks up the tree, basically. So that's why we have this kick in the binary center of mass. This is unphysical. It's not like a natural drift because we changed some parameters and this kick disappeared. So we fixed that, putting the black holes in a higher time step. Because the time step not only solves the movement of the black holes, but also the accretion itself.
Because you compute the accretion only when the black hole is the active particle.
Yes,
exactly.
only one side.
But then you have another other problems, like one of the black holes are kicked away.
And one of the other things that we tried at the beginning, I really want to go deep into the core details, but you know that since it's a pre-code, we update the tree time to time. So there's also a parameter in the simulation that you can play around and try to modify to see if you want the tree to be more often updated or generated. And also we have this issue that, of course, when we updated like really often the tree, we have some issues in the evolution also because it was really slow. At some point, of course, since we're calculating all the tree every year and all the tree time steps, it was really like a nightmare. Yes. Yes, okay. Sure, we can just, I just wanted to, this is, as I said, one of the first ideas, and I really want to know, for example, still we are, as I said, discussing the amount of particles this kind of system. I mean, because I don't want to present like something with 50,000 particles, and then, I don't know, the referee will say, no, it's too heavy, gas particles, and that's kind of.
Do you see convergence?
Sorry?
Do you see convergence? What is the difference between the different?
That's the thing that we wanted to see. I mean, to see, for example, analyze the binary evolution with the difference, because you know that when a particle here will be accreted by is a huge portion of the mass, but also, but if we have like 2 million, since we are keeping the same mass of the cloud, will be nothing. So of course you will have like more accretion, but that's the thing. We want to analyze if for example, the most ideal scenario would be to analyze the binary evolution with the different resolution of the clouds and see if we have the same order of parameters or mostly the same. We said, okay, if we don't care, we can show the plots agreeing that and using the lowest resolution possible, but we don't have this kind of similar evolution in other cases.
This is probably related to what Cole was asking before. So if you want to have convergence in the parameter evolution of the binary, probably you can use a reasonably small number of particles. If you want to resolve the structure of the discrete forms after the destruction of the cloud, then
that's the thing I want to do. So I'm really afraid of using this kind of because I don't want to end up with 20 million particles.
It's related to this question, right?
Sure.
You would get some convergence in the parameter evolution of the binary, but then you wouldn't get that for these.
So please, keep in mind this idea, the idea of this project. If you somehow tomorrow or next week you have some comments, you remember some, I don't know, some word, whatever, and you want to mention it to me, it would be more than thanks for your feedback. So yes, this is the first project that I wanted to talk to you. I don't know if Pau or Felipe, since you are my collaborators, you have some comments?
I think you're a spiritual guide.
Maybe I can say just for reference that my clouds have 4 million particles each, and with that I can barely resolve the mini disks. So yeah, it's a
do you want to resolve the circumbinary disk if something remains, or the actual mini disk around the
No,
center?
in this case, we want to
We want to
resolve
see-
the circumbinary structure.
Yes, we want to see what is formed after so
Yeah,
many
the thing is
events.
that you have a very strong interaction, you will have a lot of gas just flying away, you're not, clearly not resolving that with any number of well,
Yeah, in addition, since you remember, it goes the basic structure of the point is pretty similar to I think that Felipe was presenting yesterday.
I have a non-technical comment about it. My personal feeling is that the huge fraction of mass that gets lost because of the ejection and that gets very close to the black hole is partially or mostly related to the fact that you have a very small pericenter
Yes.
and a very centric hole. And my personal question would be how you justify such a centric hole.
Yes,
Because it's
that's-
very hard to
Yes.
you know, if you have something rotating like a disk and then you want to perturb a cloud to be radial, it has to be a strange to body interaction because it's going to be, you know, isotropic in the reference frame of whatever binary it is, but it will be mostly differentiation in the way. So maybe if you move to I don't know, Gaseous centric orbits or something like that, you probably solve the numerical problems as well, though
Yes.
most probably the binary.
I mean, of
doesn't
course,
work,
since this
so-
was the beginning of the project, we wanted to break the system because we didn't want to find out these kind of issues after a month of simulation. So yes, we wanted to stress that, and we are even using a different like a distance to the present of this, and I think that for the latest was 2 or 1.5, I think, which compared to the one that Felipe was presenting yesterday, which was 3. So we wanted to stress the interaction to try to break, and we managed to break the simulation, of course. But well, that's the idea, to try to mitigate these issues. So yeah, I mean,
It's the presenter distance, but also I was away for 2 minutes. I don't know whether you talked about this, but also time interval between inflow of cloud. What's that? How often do you have one of these things? Because it
But
really.
in presence of a black hole binary,
Yes.
nobody knows, of course, because
Yes,
you
but,
never saw anything like that.
I'm
so-
afraid it can be very important for the final
It- it-
structure.
Oh, definitely, yes,
Yes.
but my question is more like if you are, let's say that you are in a gas-rich environment, and the merger triggered the formation of a circumnuclear disk,
Mhm.
and then you get some inflow from this circumnuclear disk. The inflow will be maybe partially planned, but still mostly on, you know, a gradual spiral of gas more than, or some spirals moving in, but not like clouds with 0.9 centricity or so. You see my point?
Yeah, I think that the picture of it being a lot of discrete clouds may not be good in that situation, but I wonder if you're really talking about clouds that are 0.01 times their mass of the binary, whether you could place some sort of limit at the rate they're coming in based on the idea that a lot of that gas will get onto the binary, and you're not going to grow it ridiculously fast, right? So
Like from activity? Or?
so in terms of things like the dynamical time, the number of binary orbits, I wonder if you'd be able to place a limit like that. So in other words, if you're dumping 10 to the 9, if the rate at which you're throwing the clouds at the binary, you deposit 10 to the 9 solar masses in 10 to the 6 years or something like that, then that's too high.
Yeah. So you could put some limits either based on the intensity of the hypothetical nuclear starburst or the accretion. And you could use the accretion if you scale with the mass that you actually accrete in the core, for example, and assume that is, I don't know, luminous quasar for the mass of the object or something like that.
Yeah, maybe.
And since you are using a very small mass of the cloud, it's basically a continuum in reality.
Yeah.
If your cloud is mostly circular, if you do a continuum or a cloud after the other is mostly the same. But well, this is intrinsically related with the initial dynamical condition of the cloud. It depends how you throw the cloud to the environment. That's my feeling.
yeah, no, of course, I mean, the distribution of how the clouds will interact will play around with the different probability. We wanted to set different, like mostly correlating, mostly controlating of the isotropicness of the clouds forming. So yeah, I mean, I think that if I try to show you with the laptop in the video, it will not work. So that's the address, so it's so on. But This is just a test. Don't think of it. It's just 50K sparkle in every cloud, and we have this extreme isotropic case, which three-part gas clouds interact almost at the same time with the binary, and we can see already after these three clouds we left the integration like they're running and running. So we wanted to see if some structure was forming. We saw some nice like SQL binaries, but we don't know. It's just three clouds, and that's why we wanted to stress that the amount of events that we are trying to see which kind of structure we will end up with some rings or some totals. I don't know. So yeah, so that's if there is like no further comments. If you have any comments and idea later, you can let me know. I think that we still have a few minutes, so maybe I can give you the main idea of the other project. So the next project is that it just based in previous papers that we had with different collaborators. That it's just an idea to study different efficiency in stellar formation and different type of accretion results, the formulas on the evolution of some black hole immersed in a single nuclear disk. So for this, we are here. We are just using the experience that we already got from two papers. Maybe I can just read the authors of the first one. So the first one is what's called supermassive black hole star-forming gaseous circle nuclear disk. It's from Luciano del Valle, 2015. L'Oreal. It's like I don't know if you were here. No, I think I did it with Andres Escala from Chile, another professor from Chile, Jorge Cuadra, and Pau also is in the paper, and we on the paper. So this is like the first paper which was mainly related to stellar formation. Okay, I will just maybe not touch on it. The second one is another paper that we wrote with Pau, with Massimo, with Monica, that was about retrograde binaries in massive black hole in simple binary accretion disk. So this is the I don't know if it's 2016 B, C, okay, something. And of course, since with this paper we work around different type of accretion. And we wanted to apply the knowledge of this kind of techniques that we were using and try to see if somehow we can find some relation between accretion, stellar formation, in how the time scale, how these binaries immersed in the simple nuclear disk will form a binary, and then we end up with some gravitational waves time scale. So we wanted to try a different system. So we had another paper which was written ages ago from Doherty, for those who are Francesco there, and Monica. This is the 2006.
John.
But no, it's even 2005, I think. Yeah. This is the LISA double black holes dynamics and gaseous disk. So the idea of we are using for this project is to see, okay, we will grab a model that was well described in this paper. So thanks. And which is just consisting of some nuclear disk with some placing of the two black holes in the middle. There is also a bulge. I don't know how to draw bulge, so I always do this in my notes. And as I said, we want to try these two ideas at the same time on this kind of system, because usually, maybe I'm wrong, please correct me, but every time that I see a paper to accretion, they often say we don't include any stellar formation with the formulas. And when I read a stellar formation with it, we don't include any accretion. So it's like, come on, I mean, you can just put two things together and just to see what happens. So the thing that we want to do, as I said, want to check is to see if this idea that was explained in this paper, plus the conclusion that we got from this paper of retrograde binaries, how well this will work in this kind of model. Because I think that I already asked you, but even in this paper you have some comments saying like in the future we are planning to include more creation, cooling. I don't know how in the future is that, or maybe it was already done and I didn't check it.
Wasn't included, or I think I included it at this point.
In some paper? we also saw, I think that, I don't remember, maybe Paul you can remind me that the Fiacconi paper, if they include accretion and stellar formation, because there was another paper working with,
No, they didn't include star formation. They only allowed for gas cooling before the starting of the simulation, and they allowed clumps to form, and then they studied the evolution of these two black holes in the clumping medium.
Yeah, okay, because for example, another restriction of this paper, for example, this was.
I don't remember if we included this formation or not in Mayo. I think so, because we had the cooling and the. I think it's Mayo et al. The paper.
Yes.
Well, I have to check it out. But if we didn't publish them, and I find the simulations, I can give them to you.
I think we do a few plots and we have and again, of course, there's some restriction of these kind of things. That, for example, this one was working only with the circular binaries, and in this case, the systems were really different. So we just wanted to try to use the same knowledge. For this case, it was also a circumnuclear disk with two black holes in the middle. But with this paper, we had a different system. We were a disk with a massive black hole and a secondary orbiting around Crater Bay. And yeah, for this we did two kind of simulations, 2D and 3D simulations, and they kind of agree. And so yeah, we wanted to use these two techniques in this model. So I don't know, I don't want to go into deep, if you want me to explain this the stellar formation maybe idea, or if you already have some comments of these kind of words, mixing or trying to analyze the different type of accretion and different efficiency of stellar formation in the evolution of a single nuclear disk.
But why are you doing this?
Because we want to know what would be the structure, the amount of gas, for example, once we reach like a gravitational waves timescales. I mean, after all because of course, first we need to form the binary, then we need to evolve the system a lot. And then at some point, of course, since we are doing numerical resolutions in SPH, we cannot like go further, and we just want to analyze how is the distribution of the gas, the remaining gas of the system, and if this will play an important role in how gravitational wave will be generated by this kind of system. So yeah, maybe you already have some comments. Maybe you saw a paper yesterday that was doing the same thing, or 10 years ago was doing the same thing.
So sorry, you may have described it if I missed it.
Sure.
Are the black holes within their radii of influence at this stage? Or is the mass around them larger than the mass of the black holes?
That's the case. I have here the information, so I can be so just talking internal units just to have an idea. So, but the mass of the disk in this case is 1. The mass of the black hole is and the mass of the
But in the case below, it's not the same, right?
in this case, no, it's not the same. They are already a binary, so we don't need to wait for the binary to be formed. So yeah, as I said, the systems are really different. So we just wanted to use like the idea behind this paper to try to different accretion types. So yeah, the one of the voltage just to give you explain the mass of the disk, but of course, well, I think the mass inside the disk was a lower, of course. And yes, I mean, I understand that maybe at some point, this is like a personal concern that most of these simulations take the black hole as a single particle. So it's just, okay, the radius of the particle is lower than some threshold. I mean, we don't care about how the things were calculated. Here, for example, we play around the Roche law, if the particle was bound. I mean, how bound was the particle to accrete maybe 1/3, 2/3 of the mass of the gas particle? But I think it's still, even though we use this kind of accretion physics and we use it and we agree on the results, they are not the optimal things to do. And this Felipe remind me the name of the author, because I always forget this paper that we were discussing about the better accretion formulas to have this smooth accretion, not the drastical, even inside some place. What's the name of the?
Hoover 2000.
There is this paper that is really old, but of course we have this idea in mind to see if we can somehow kind of like improve the way of how all these simulations are accreting. Because even though it's okay, because we can select like a small radius and okay, maybe we will have to have like more like a disrupt a little bit, the gas particle that were entering another could completely this kind of thing. I think that this, I don't remember all the details of this implementation, but I think that they have some kind of set of particles around the black hole, and they are like periodically checking the distance between them and the closer one, and like taking a small fraction of the particle. So we are giving like drops of it.
Well, that sort of implementation really depends on the scales you are studying
Yes.
and the relative mass between the black holes and the gas particle. In your specific case, if the accretion rate is low and you form a corona of low mass particles, lower mass particles with respect to the others, and around the black hole, because of those that get accreted, and you warm them up, you're going to have a spurious pressure support onto the others, stopping the accretion. But it's going to be tricky from the
Yes.
numerical point of view. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
And one particle would be enough to stop the accretion. So if the mass of each gas particle is sufficiently low, I would prefer not
To go into that.
But the thing with this accretion is that you create a region where you don't have any particles. So you have this, in the edge of the same radius, you have artificial forces.
So you would have way stronger artificial forces otherwise.
Yeah, but the thing is that we want to resolve I think with this kind of study we want to resolve more properly the accretion. And if you have a physical force in the edge of the same radius, you will increase the accretion numerically, just because you don't have particles in one side.
Okay, I understood that. Right. My point is, now assume that you carve the region as you were describing, but for a gas particle, okay, that gets inside and gets partially excreted and warms up. And then you put some prescriptions such as the particle has to be bound to the liquid in order to be accreted, okay, and hence colder than a given temperature, okay. That particle is never going to be accreted and will never move from the black hole because it's bound to the black hole. Okay. And will prevent any other particle to fall in because